Hello, and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Steven Universe Future, which we'll be talking about tonight. I'm your host, Alex Bonilla, and today I'm joined by Michelle Andrew.
Hello.
And Maddie Potter.
Hello.
And today we are here for an emergency episode of the Overly Animated Podcast, because if you listen to our most recent Steven Universe Future podcast episode, which you can find at overlyanimated.com, you can find that on YouTube as well, wherever you listen to us, anywhere, Podcast Addict, Spotify, etc. You can find us wherever. But yeah, if you listen to our most recent episode, we talked about the last two episodes, Mr. Universe and Fragments, and we were preparing for the 4-part finale to air on Friday, when, what do you know, Cartoon Network drops this little surprise and drops part 1 of the finale, Homeworld Bound, on the Cartoon Network app for us to enjoy and hype ourselves up for the rest of the finale. And boy howdy, a lot of stuff happened just in this one piece of the finale. So I figured there was enough here for us to do a quick podcast on this episode alone. So let's dive right into it. Michelle, give me your thoughts on the opening of this finale, which is Homeworld Bound.
Boy, howdy's a good turn of phrase as in for this. I mean, like, not to be a broken record, but I feel like every episode of Steven for the past, since episode 2 of Future, it's just been, increasingly concerned of, oh, Steven, no. Because this, again, it's just what could top Jasper getting shattered? Oh, I don't know, trying to give White Diamond a taste of her own medicine in a very painful sequence. And having Steven not, quite be into it, but also just, taking a very interesting approach to kind of, figuring out how he feels about that traumatic experience when he had it, I mean, man, this is I don't think we're at rock bottom yet. Initially, I thought maybe Steven, proposing to Connie could have been rock bottom, but I think we're not going to get to rock bottom until Steven is the wormy dinosaur of our dreams. So that's still coming. That might not be till the second to last episode. There's still more to come of this.
Michelle, I think he's the wormy dinosaur of your dream.
Well, that's absolutely indisputably true, but also...
But also, she is hoping that she's convinced other listeners to buy into this, which, I mean, I've sort of bought into it. I've more bought into the modification that's been happening the past week of it being more of a kaiju monster type situation than an actual worm, but still...
Yeah, he has shoulders. That's pretty clear from the intro. Now that I've finally taken the time to actually look at it, he has shoulders, but I mean, he has a very long neck. Maybe there's a room of compromise there. He's part worm, part kaiju,
Right. So the chance is still there, but this obviously sets up more Steven problems in the future. Maddie, let's go to you. Your general impressions of Homeworld Bound.
I think that since my last time I was on, we've continued the trend of just being very forward with talking about Steven's trauma and Steven's continued allegory of parental abuse and stuff like that. All these figures that are his family are coming. He views them as not right for him. Every single family figure he has, and while that's a very normal teenage thing, he's having these, not with the crystal gems, but at least with the things ancillary to the crystal gems. He had a lot of fights with them. He had fights besides them. They led him into a lot of fights, either on purpose or not. And the diamonds literally tried to kill him. And so these are his family right now. And these are who he turned. He turned after trying to cope with his human half with Greg, which didn't go great. He went to try to turn to his diamond half, and that didn't go great. And so I think the next episode is going... this episode's hard for me because I think the next episode is going to be the one that's going to help me see where we're going with this arc, even though we're so close to the end. Because I just have to say that, next episode is when Steven's going to be alone. Steven's going to have to deal, like, he expressly said, I want to be better, and he can't be happy, essentially. Like, he doesn't want to be forced to be happy, and I don't know where we're going to go with Steven. I don't know what his end point is, and that makes me excited, but also kind of scared, because anytime there's, like, mental illness and stuff, I get scared of, like, any way that it neatly wraps up, like, that kind of story, because it's never neatly wrapped up in real life. But I trust Rebecca Sugar, obviously, and I want to see where we're going, and I'm excited to see Steven alone next episode, or where he's going. I don't know. I don't think there's anyone left for him to turn to, but it definitely would be interesting if he turned to someone I'm not thinking of.
Mm-hmm. All right. I do want to piggyback off of your talking about mental illness, because my reaction to this episode overall was basically up to now we've been talking about Steven trauma and how that's affecting him, but at least to me, this felt like the first episode where we're also like bringing in depression into this, because there's like a lot of like different messages going on here that like resonated with me a lot more than some of the earlier messages in this season, because they fit a lot more with just like that in that downward spiral of his self-hatred and self-loathing that we've touched on with Steven Universe, but I think that this felt like we're like getting a lot closer to that particular side of Steven's descent here. And also the fact that like we're, as you mentioned, we did Greg in the search for the human half, then he switches to go to the diamonds for the diamond half, and just the crystal gems continue to get frozen out here, and they're the closest family, and like that part hurts to see too, that he's like has to go to the extremes to figure out who he is and all. So that part hurts. Overall, this was, I think, a strong opening to a finale. Honestly, I'm personally watching it with the idea in mind that it is part one of a part four of a 4-part finale. So like it does end in a a cliffhangery way, and some people might view that as rushed. But like I think that this is perfect for like setting up the final Steven versus Self showdown as he's like running out of people to turn to. They slip in a couple of fun stuff in here, like in the middle of all this Steven, the through line of Steven's mental problems. We also managed to fit in like, hey, Homeworld's back. We get to fit in some gem mythology again. We get to fit in a diamond song. We get to fit in Spinel. Like, so like this episode. So like just like on an overall point, like this episode is really packed with stuff while still keeping the general tone of oh no, Steven. But like it feels like a bit of a step up in terms of just like trying to fit in all the fun stuff about Steven Universe 2 while we're still in the middle of this important story. Yeah, but Maddie?
I just think that the problem with it, because I definitely agree that I'm viewing this as like a finale, like I'm viewing this as a 4-parter, and it's hard not to. But like watching just this first part, I have no clue how this could wrap up a series. Like just at all. Like just at all. There's so much left.
Yeah. There's 3 episodes left after this, so we gotta. I do wonder if it's not going to be as clean as other shows might attempt to do it, but we will talk a bit more about like how this sets up the final episodes a bit later. But focusing on this episode, let's see, what do we want to talk about first? I mean, honestly, I got really excited about Spinel, so can we talk about her first for a little bit before we get into like the deep emotional stuff?
Let's do it.
Michelle, Spinel takes. She has finally returned after her big screen debut. Well, what's the consensus here?
I was like shook we actually saw her again for real. I was not expecting it, but she was amazing. The fact that like as soon as she greets Steven, he's already like kind of like just like exasperated with her is such a good introduction. And I mean, she honestly does seem to be doing a lot better. And the diamonds have chilled out a lot too, which I think is probably good for her. I mean, I love seeing Spinel, and I'm sure the fandom's just very happy because, like, we stand Spinel.
The collective fandom,
yes.
Yeah. I had a real fun time with Spinel. Like from the very beginning, it's like, oh yeah, we're back to cartoon character mode. She's got like hard eyes. She's giving the Bugs Bunny smooch to Steven, like reminding you the type of character that Spinel is. I think later in the episode, we begin to see her get a little bit worried about Steven, and I also appreciate that part. The scene where she like sings "Change" back at him hurts a lot.
It's like so painful, but so funny at the same time. It's like, oh, Spinel, no.
It was probably the funniest part.
Hilarious. Yeah,
it was so good.
And of course, like Steven immediately is like, "Don't give me my own advice." Like, like I mean that's part of the whole package here, right? Like rejecting advice that you've given to other people because you're in a place where you can't really accept it right now. But yeah, Spinel, fun times. Related to Spinel, the diamonds are, as you mentioned, Michelle, are a lot chiller. Mm-hmm. I would say. Yellow. Well, I guess we'll go through them. Yellow Diamond is, repairing gems. So that's nice. I did notice that the experiments she was playing with, those are like the ones from Keeping It Together, right?
Oh yeah, because the Keeping It Together, it was like the first early Homeworld experience. So it was like a handful of gems together, very small, and then the cluster was like the magnum opus of their experimenting. And she does talk about like she does want to like legit just like heal the cluster herself. Like she's very gung-ho about it, which kind of surprised me because I assumed that was something Steven might tackle, but maybe Yellow Diamond's just gonna do it.
But I think what's becoming apparent is that Steven's powers are not fully just healing, and that's kind of something Steven's coming to grips with, because it appears that the diamonds have abilities that Steven doesn't. Mm-hmm. Like they have abilities that Steven will never have, I think. And I think that what we're like this whole episode is about the diamonds reversing their powers, and that includes Steven. Steven's powers reverse too, and it's just, I think, really interesting the way they framed this. It was like kind of really simple makes it sound bad, but it was just such a simple structure for the episode. Just like we're gonna go see each diamond, and then Steven's gonna realize he's done with them, and it works so well, and I'm just very surprised by it.
Well, it's just such a contrast, right? Because for the longest time, like the diamonds, I feel like it's always been a tinge of doubt of like, are they really reformed? Are they really changed from who they used to be? And I feel like this episode is doing as much work as it can to be like, yes, like Steven has worked on the diamonds, and they are actually making like real changes in their lives, and then seeing Steven go in the opposite direction, like they make the contrast as stark as possible, and it really works here. The Blue Diamond segment I want to talk about because there's, especially here, since this Blue Diamond is focused in the emotional sense, so the fact that Blue Diamond has a way to force people to be joyful, and Steven goes with the language of, hey, this isn't right. Like, I don't want to feel better. I want to be better. He doesn't want the enhancement to help him be happy, which to me, like, got very close to like antidepressant talk, like refusing help no matter what, because you're like looking for like what's deep inside you, but because that you're refusing any help towards it. I don't know if that's just like a really out there impression, but Maddie, do you want to?
I think there is an allegory there, and I take antidepressants. It's not like it. Some people like. I think that when you have depression, which Steven, I think, I don't want to say clearly because depression forms in a lot of different ways, but I think he does, and. Or at least some kind of mental illness like depression. And I think that when you're depressed or something similar, it becomes really hard to accept an easy fix, to accept something that just helps. And it's not a crutch when it's your brain chemistry's out of whack. And Steven's not in a place to realize that. I do think that the show is not saying this is bad. I'm not saying, like, I don't think the show explicitly says what Blue Diamond is doing is bad. I think it's bad that she forced Steven to ride the cloud, but I don't think it's bad that she's letting people ride those clouds of their own volition. Like, in a lot of ways, like, training the brain is like reforging old, like, pathways. And so, like, maybe getting that happiness inside you, like, helps you remember those lines of thought you had when you weren't depressed or something. Like, I don't think the show is saying this is explicitly bad. I just think Steven's not in a place to accept it.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Michelle, do you want to chime in on this Blue Diamond scene?
I mean, I just agree with everything that's been said. I mean, I do think, like, this is something where it could, work for some people, but Steven really wants to... I think, like, the issue is probably... Because, like, Steven still seems so confused about what's going on, and, like, after we had, like, Mrs. Maheshwaran kind of nail out, like, what exactly his body is going through, I thought we had cracked the pink powers. But maybe the issue is more like, yeah, that is how his body is responding to stress, and we understand that. But Steven doesn't quite, like, he hasn't really thought to himself why he's so stressed out, maybe. Like, he's, like, refusing to think about the, like, where this is all stemming from.
He acknowledged the trauma once, but he hasn't, like, actually sat on it.
Yeah, he hasn't really sat on it and accepted it, which, again, is why I think he's so resistant to talking to the Crystal Gems, because they will ask him the hard questions that he's been pushing away from everyone. But I think that's really what he needs to do. And it's, like, his attempt to just go around to literally everyone else to try to either push it away or, like, think that being with them is going to fix it or give him an answer outside of the real problem obviously just isn't working. So, I mean, I think, Blue Diamond, like, this probably does really help some people, but if Steven can acknowledge what's really going on with him and what's really bothering him and be honest with himself about that, like, feeling happy is not going to be a long-term thing, and he probably wants it to be a long-term thing.
I think that's healthy and fine. Everyone has a different path to recovery and healing.
Of course, yeah.
And no one's worse off for either choice here. But Steven's not making a choice here. He's just denying every choice that's offered to him, which is a different decision.
Right.
And that's a choice in of itself, though.
But I mean, like, it's
just,
a
like,
bad
hard to
one.
watch.
It's an actively bad choice.
Well, I'll say, like, that this is also, like, related to, like, how your brain goes in depression mode, because you like when you're in that stage, like, you're searching for the reason, like, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? And then you hear, like, people provide different reasons, like, no, there's gotta be something else, like, it can't just be that. But then, like, in your circle, you get more and more frustrated that you're not coming to the answer that you're expecting or you're hoping will make things better, and that provides the circle of anger and self-hatred and depression to continue forward and your eternal search. So, like, I especially get that sense in this episode with Steven, where, like, he gets sent from diamond to diamond, like, oh, so if it's this, then maybe you should go see this diamond. Oh, it doesn't seem to be that. Well, let's go to that diamond. So, like, and Steven is going along with it because, like, he's desperate to find a particular reason for it, even if at the time when he's confronted with an actual thing, like, for example, Yellow Diamond, it's like, whoa, like, your temper's out of control. But, like, that doesn't really affect Steven at all in that moment. He's just, like, looking for somewhere else to vent. So, like, just seeing him go in the runaround, like, really, it's a thing that happens.
But I think
it's a thing.
But it's like, I mean, like, it's something that I've went through, because, like, every time I see a therapist or I've seen someone to help me with my mental illness, like, they always start with the symptoms. I start with, like, the symptoms of the trauma and work backwards. And they eventually made it to the point where Steven realized, oh, I feel bad about, like, being a diamond. I feel bad about the fact that I am this diamond who is capable of hurting people so much. And I think that's where like, they're going with that last scene with White. But again, we don't get the full realization in this episode. I don't think the full vocalization.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be more that we're going to dig into.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, like, I think that he has a realization in that scene. But the problem is that, like, he doesn't realize that even though the diamonds don't solve his problems, each of them are getting closer to finding out what it is.
That's what I kept thinking. Like every time one of them would be like, "Oh, like this sounds like if you're angry no matter what Yellow Diamond says is like that sounds like it's more of an like this isn't gonna fix you. You should go see Blue Diamond." Blue Diamond's like, "Oh, like if this is an issue of self-worth, like then you need it." Like they're all tapping into part of it. I'm sure it's just like it hasn't all culminated yet.
I think what they're trying to say is like the first two things we saw are symptoms of the last thing we saw with White Diamond. Like his shape changing isn't really a problem. It's his stress about being, it's the problem he realizes with White Diamond, and it isn't really the anger that's the problem. It's the thing that's causing the anger, which is his frustration with himself. And that's good. That's like good that we're like making it there. But like Steven's not listening to any of them because he views the other two diamonds, yellow and blue, as failures when they're really he just went to the wrong people to talk to. And that happens sometimes when you're trying to make things better. There's nothing wrong with that, but he wants things solved right now. And there's just no solution to this stuff that happens in like the time frame he's ready for.
I mean, again, he's a teenage.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like, haven't we all been there where like we were frustrated and we didn't know why, and like our parents tried to help us and just their advice made us madder because like, no, it's not that, like never mind, like I shouldn't have even asked you. Like that's so Steven right now. It's so understandable. It's just like hard to like see him hurting so much.
Oh, yeah, it's so hard.
And like, we'll see the anger culminated here with White Diamond, but just before we move to there, I do want to mention briefly, with Blue Diamond, we finally get a solo Blue Diamond song, which thank goodness.
So good.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, because she's a good singer. She's got such like a soft, soothing voice. My Little Reason Why is the title of the song, and it's just like a really like it could be like a love song basically. It feels very sweet. So,
it's almost a love song for like a child. It's almost a lullaby almost.
Yeah, I could see it being like used in a lullaby situation too. Yeah, but I just like was really happy at that song. It's, like again, it's like a midpoint of this episode where we're dealing with Steven's frustration. I need any high point we can get. So
yeah.
So Lisa Hannigan, props to you. Very nice song to get here in the finale. Since this is like a series finale, I would hope there's more songs in these upcoming episodes too. And this is song number 1. But yeah, we go to White Diamond here. I'll say her reversal of power is that she lets other gems take control of her, and so
I don't understand. Okay, can we talk about this? I don't understand how this is a good idea. This sounds like a terrible idea.
I think I understand what's actually happening here, which they didn't really communicate well in the episode. What I think it's really trying to show is that White Diamond gets to feel other people's emotions. It's like enhanced empathy. So she's getting the chance to understand the perspective of these gems that she used to not understand ever. And she used to just force to conform. And now she's getting the chance to see the viewpoint of the smallest and, in her old opinion's way, the most worthless gems. And now she's seeing all these people have these full emotions and full lives and full characters that she has not realized. And I think that's what they're trying to get at here. Because she seems emotionally taken aback by the Steven stuff. Not just like physically taken aback. So I feel like there's something more going on here than just they're taking control of her body, which they didn't necessarily communicate that well.
If that's true, then what does the other person get out of it? Like the ability to be heard and understood better? Plus the fun of puppeting a giant gem around?
It's almost like you're getting this chance to talk to yourself, and then White Diamond gets to pull themselves out of that and be like, this is what I saw. This is what I saw from my perspective, seeing through your eyes. And I think
I guess that would be a really good thing for her, yeah.
It's good for her, and it's good for the people she's trying to help. She gets this chance to be like, I see what you need, and I see what I need to do to help you now.
Spinel needs to have fun. And
I know,
so when she's White Diamond, she just does dances and kicks. And
it did look pretty great, though. I mean, in those heels, it was cool.
Did you say it was creepy?
It was so creepy when she was controlling White Diamond.
I mean, in general, White Diamond's controlling powers have always been
just creepy in general,
and
yeah.
this is no exception. Uh,
Unfortunately.
Interestingly, White Diamond is the only one here who shoos Spinel out to have a solo conversation with Steven, which, smart of her, to
It's
do
almost like
that.
she understands. Like I mean, like
No,
she's learned.
I think she does understand. Which again, is it because she's been having all these empathy sessions with people?
I think she's had enough of these sessions where the people she's been trying to talk to have like in their own brain, and not maybe vocally, but they've been like, I want to be alone to have this conversation. And I think she's learned that like people just are more open when it's one-on-one, because that's just how people are.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility here. White Diamond offers this connection to Steven.
I screamed so loud. I was like, "Oh, this no, this is not."
You already did.
Like Steven is so upset. It's like you want to give an upset person a giant diamond body to run around in. I don't think so.
It's when it went bad.
No.
Yes, Steven immediately freaks out that like, oh, I'm a diamond. This is the last thing I need to see. It turns into anger. Now, like when we're following this element of abuse, it's a strong sequence here where he's like, why am I scared? I'm in control. Then immediately he remembers the trauma that White Diamond caused him, and like the removal of the gem. We get a quick montage of that. And so that turns to anger while he's in control. He grows. He makes White Diamond his tiny puppets. And he like literally says, "I like this is for everything you put me through." So we're going full on revenge here.
Yeah.
But we get really, really dark with like the way the scene is composed too. Makes her smash her head gem into the pillar. But because loses control right at the end, it's just him hurting himself instead of hurting White Diamond. But we get the intent of what's going on there. This, I would argue, is even stronger than the Jasper shattering.
That's what I was saying
because
at the beginning. It's so much more uncomfortable and feels like so much more a breach of just like,
It feels like a breach of not only like obvious things that you shouldn't do to people, but it feels like a breach for Steven. It's such a line crossed for him.
Yeah, it's such a line cross. Possession of a body is a scary thing to do.
It really is.
Accidentally shattering somebody is not good, but
but you understand how it happened because
and he didn't mean to shatter her. Yeah. He didn't realize, but like he means to do this. I think the intentionality is part of why it feels so much worse. Yeah. Like he's so angry and he doesn't care that he's scaring her so much because like his revenge is more important to him than the danger she feels in that moment, which for Steven is something we've never seen before.
I want to point out a line in the scene, the one where Steven, what did he say? He says, "I'm in control. I shouldn't be scared now." Is that what he says?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, and it's just, I think, again, they're so good at the show of nailing down like these very specific emotions of like depression and trauma that like are hard to put words to. But this is the word. This is like, I'm in control now. I'm not in that situation anymore where the diamonds are going to hurt me. Why do I still feel scared of them? And the answer is that's just not how brains work. He spent most of his life or most of the last few years scared of the diamonds, and his brain just can't change that mode instantly. And he's too young to understand that. He's too young to understand that sometimes it just takes time to feel better. And I think that this is the line that like I will think about for a long time from this episode. Like it really hit me hard.
And arguably what White Diamond did to him is probably the most traumatic thing.
Yeah.
It's like the pulling out of the gem, I think, probably tops everything else. And Steven has been through a lot. And I think part of that, like, the traumatic nature of him trying to work through all of those emotions by enacting the violence himself also feels very true to, like, methods of working through trauma. Like, for better or worse, it is a way of trying to kind of understand what happened to you. So I think that it's also kind of amazing that this is talking about this so well, but that's something that I think is really interesting too.
It's just so good about talking about. Like, I'm just still stunned. I'm still stunned at how good this is explaining and talking about trauma. It's not an easy thing to put to words at all, and this show just does it kind of flawlessly. I'm just very shocked by that.
Oh, I think one of the nice things is because this is a whole 20 episode series, they're able to kind of touch on different layers of these emotions in different episodes. So you get this very interesting nuanced take on it because they have all this time to focus on specific aspects. And that's it's not super comfortable to watch, but it is kind of cathartic in a way too that I really appreciate.
Yeah, I'll say in part the main thing that sticks out to me is the element of anger, because we've seen him be frustrated throughout this entire season, but it's just in this back half where we're getting to a point where he's had some reasons put in front of him, but it hasn't solved the root of his issues, and it has begun to build more and more frustration, and so we're finally beginning to see elements of anger in that process as well, to the point where it bubbles over here, just seeing that he doesn't have a healthy way to cope with these things, and that's his first instinct once he gets control in this particular situation is to exact revenge. It just tells you how far gone it's been. But the reason that fits here is because we've seen him gradually over the course of 20 episodes get to this point of frustration. So it's just it's a bold move to make your formerly sweet cinnamon roll go this far.
Yeah. So Alex, as you were saying that, I feel like there's no way he can't see Lapis now. Because they're talking about the revenge, that's literally what she did to Jasper, right? That was the whole reason they started fusing again, because she was working through so many, very upsetting, very traumatic emotions, and so she just took it all on Jasper, because that was, that was just how she was dealing with it for a while, and it was really unhealthy for both of them, but it was a way of kind of handling it for a time. And I feel out of everyone in the show, who else has been as angry as Steven is right now? Probably Lapis is the only one.
The only other one would probably be Spinell, and he tried to ask her, and she had nothing. And
she was just, yeah. And I just also remember in the Lapis episode, when she finally loses her cool, and she's all right, talking to him isn't gonna work. I gotta show him. She uses her physical strength, the same way Steven did with Jasper, to kind of get them cowed and in awe of her. And they start listening to her because they're oh yeah, getting Lapis is that powerful. Of course we'll listen to you. And she's anger.
No, I don't want that.
She says I don't remember exactly what she says, but she essentially it takes so much more courage and power to be kind than to be hateful. And that's why she backed off. So I feel again, Lapis is the perfect person to talk to Steven right now. She's been through all this before him. And we
haven't had the Lapis sign off episode yet. Every character's kind of gotten a chance.
Unless the other one was. I mean,
well, that's the thing. Why so right? blue? I thought that was the send off, but exactly. Michelle makes a very good point. But she's the character that fits the most right now.
Anyone.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know who else he's going to go to. I just really don't. I just don't know who else he's going to turn to at this point. Or where he's going to go.
I feel he's going to turn to a giant dinosaur worm, and then maybe he's
You just want worm. You just want worm. I get it, Michelle.
I don't just want worm. You need
the
intro? I mean,
let's just close out the episode here. We can talk about the future here, but basically he realizes what he's done. He begins running out. So Spinell tries to stop him with change, and that doesn't work. His hair begins growing out again. Yeah, that was really good. His hair begins growing out again. It seems that's just a symptom of super Steven mode, is that he gets the pompadour hair. He leaves a sandal behind, which I guess is supposed to be a reference to Cinderella or whatever, although I don't really get how it fits in this particular situation, but there's probably some symbolism involved in there.
People telling you not to leave and you running away dramatically anyway. I guess that's maybe why. I don't know. I just think it's hilarious.
Maybe time is running out and it'll turn into an onion. Into onion.
Into onion.
Yeah. The diamonds in parallel at the very beginning of the episode, I think Garnet says like, "No matter what, we're your family." Now the
Yeah.
diamonds here also say, "We're your family," and Steven again says, "Don't follow me," and warps away. So bookends some symbolism there as well. That on both sides of his family, he can't trust anymore. So now we can talk a little bit about what we're expecting from the three-part finale based on this. So I would say, like, I think that we at some point,
Lapis.
I mean, Lapis would be nice, but I think the natural thing is that he eventually has to get confronted by the crystal gems and like actually force to talk
Yeah,
these things,
I
right?
Yeah.
think
That's
so.
kind of
Like,
the last beacon of hope. I feel they're the ones that know him the best and have been through all his growing up. So that if anyone is going to have a balanced perspective of how to deal with his grievances, I feel like it'd be the crystal gems, and we're just kind of waiting for the time where they're forced to talk to each other.
and Steven, it makes so much sense because Steven's like always been there for them when they've fallen apart, and all of them have fallen apart in separate ways.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice image just to think of like all of them coming together to just help him out, and pay the buck back for everything he's done. Because again, like when I saw the diamonds, like even White Diamond, like even though Steven did a really invasive thing, a scary thing, immediately she runs after him and wants to make sure he's okay. And I feel like the fact that everyone is so concerned about Steven is such a testament to just the kind of person he's been for the majority of the show. Like he has so many people that genuinely care about him and love him and want to help him be okay. And I mean, I think that proves like who he is more than anything, right?
I mean, I think it does. I think it really does show like just how much effect it's had on these people.
Yeah.
But he's just in a place where he can't accept or see that, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, but I think like it also just kind of shows like Steven is, I don't think he's gonna feel quite this way forever. But also like
Hopefully.
he spent the majority of his life just like tending to these friendships and caring for these people, and they care about him so much in return. And I hope like eventually he can have the perspective to notice that again while after he stops spiraling for a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. So we shall see how Steven ends up finishing his spiral. If that involves a monster speed bump along the way, we'll see.
More than a speed bump, a giant mountain,
a giant traffic cone. Other random stuff from the beginning of this episode we didn't talk about. Jasper's around. She's doing a diamond salute. The savagery of Steven telling Jasper, find something better to do with your life.
God. Hasn't Jasper been through enough? She needs an arrow to the heart. I will say, I'm so thankful at least the crystal gems are like as skeeved out by this like devotion she has to him as I am. Like, thank you. I feel affirmed.
Yeah, Maddie?
Oh, no, I was just saying it's good, sorry.
Yeah. So we got Jasper at Homeworld, other random stuff. Square Dot. I know, Maddie, you were excited about that.
Oh my god, it's Square Dot. She's Square Dot. I love her. I love her so much. She is literally just Square Dot.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to say.
It's just Square. It's great.
She's a little Square, and I love her.
The video game character has come to life, but she isn't one though that first one, I think, Attack the Light or something. There's an election between the Zircons. Remember the Zircons, guys?
Democracy came to Homeworld.
Are they like fighting for lead judge or lead attorney?
I thought it was like presidential nominations.
Maybe the Diamonds are fostering democracy after all. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully.
And the wall gems are walking around. There's just like big walls with legs.
They are.
That was creepy.
I don't like it. They gotta go get shopping too sometimes.
Like, of all the questions that people asked about Homeworld, I'm not sure what are the wall gems doing was very high on the list, but I guess we know. They can walk around. Any final thoughts on this episode, or final thoughts on what you're hoping for from the finale, Maddie?
I guess what I'm really hoping for from the finale is that we really dig into this trauma, which I think we're obviously going to do, so I'm just ready. Like, we're doing this, so I am ready for this.
Yeah. All right. Michelle, final thoughts?
I mean, I want to be ready. I kept saying I was ready, but I feel like the closer we get to the final rock bottom, the more like I'm just like, oh, it's gonna make me hurt a lot though. And do I want that? But like also, yeah, I do. But also, this is the last great ultimate hurt of Steven. So I mean, after this, there will be no more hurt. And while that kind of sounds nice, it kind of sounds like sad too.
It's gonna be so good, though.
Yeah, oh man, just talking for days about whatever happens. I do think Steven needs to be alone for a little while. I want to see him transform into a monster because it's gonna look hilarious.
So into this, Michelle.
It looks so funny, and I want Lapis to talk to him because she's gonna give him some real talk, and also for the Crystal Gems to talk to him because they have been with him since the beginning. Like, I don't think Greg was in Gemglow. Like, they literally have been with him the entire time. They know him the best, and this is their moment to pay him back. So I'm excited. I'm just like emotionally vulnerable to whatever's gonna happen too.
You're opening yourself up to this pain.
The pain, yeah.
I will say that I am excited for the finale. I'm hoping it can bring me to change your mind levels of excitement. Like, that was a level that I had never experienced, and I hope that the finale gets at least close to that. I want the Crystal Gems. I want Lapis. I want Peridot. I kind of want Connie. I hope she has a part somewhere in there. But yeah, just to have all our mains come together to help Steven through his final tribulation. And yeah, I'm gonna be sad when this is finally over. But we got this surprise episode to give us one extra chance to talk about the show before it's all wrapped up.
I was gonna ask, it's Monday. Are they just gonna release an episode every night? Like, I don't want that.
Oh no!
I think it's just back-to-back Friday, starting at 7.
But I mean, like, that's what they said before this one came out.
I don't think there are any more surprises. Alex said that this was probably the one they were putting with the sing-along that got canceled, so that's why they early, which I think makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
that makes sense. Gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, look, it's Cartoon Network. Their ways are a mystery. Anything could happen. But let's hope that it's all allowed to air and want to go on Friday, so you can like get the full experience. I like this part 1 hyping us up for the rest of it, but I don't want to do a part 1, part 2, part 3 partition. So we'll see what happens. But if everything goes according to plan, we will be back here to talk about the finale on Friday night. Until then, you can find out the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on Discord to chat about Steven Universe or any other animated show at overlyanimated.com/Discord. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all of our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Britt, aka Opal. Thanks to our Patreon executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Beatrice, Hugh, Michael, and Needle. Besides Steven Universe, we cover a wide variety of other shows that you can find at overlyanimated.com. But yeah, we will be back for the finale of Steven Universe Future. Until then, talk to you later. Goodbye.
Bye.